Hello, everyone. Can you imagine? It's 2024. I'm celebrating my 84th birthday. And where did I go? I went to Australia. Now, it's quite a ride to get from here to Australia. My friend Naomi picked me up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We picked up Virginia and went to the San Francisco airport, went through security, flew down to LA, had to go through security, flew 15 hours to Australia, and then we had to get a cab to go to our hotel in Sydney. By then it was 10 a.m. in the morning. So then we got settled and decided to go and change money and went down the street about 5 blocks where I took pictures around the area. And it's interesting because most cities now are pretty much the same. Lots of 20 to 60, 70 story high rises, offices, apartments, condos, and then a few brick buildings. So I took a few pictures of the brick buildings, and at the end, there's a photo and the skyline with a Salesforce new tower going up on the left side of that photo, and another high-rise building on the right side, which is supposed to be a spectacular hotel. So after we changed our money, we're walking up the street to the hotel, and I looked, and there was another hotel across the street called the Crown Hotel. It was almost noon, and there was a sign in front that said cocktail lounge on the top, opens at noon. Of course, our first drink in Australia and Sydney had to be on top of that roof. So we went in, they put us in the elevator, and we went up to the top floor, sat down, and had a really, really nice cocktail and looked over the city for an hour or so. Went back to the hotel, the Vibe Hotel, and we relaxed there because we had to get up early the next morning to go to the ship and go through the security and all that sort of thing. So here we are having our dinner at the hotel and then getting a good night's sleep before we left the next morning to the ship. We got to the ship and went through security, and they said that our bags wouldn't be in our room for several hours. So they said they had to set up a special luncheon for us at the Tuscany restaurant. We went in and we had our first wine for the trip there. And I saw the wine steward walking around, and it was interesting. The wine steward had about 20 glasses, I guess, in his hand, and he was putting them on the tables with the other hand. How could you hold that many glasses in her hand? I wanted to take his picture, but he said no. But then he got behind Virginia, crouched there, and put the glasses in front of her so it looked like she had 15 or 20 glasses in front of her. And I took the picture, and we had a good laugh about that. Wonderful lunch, and then by that time, it was time to go to the room. We were on the 9th level, 9226 was our cabin number. Beautiful big room. We decided where we were going to put our beds to sleep. She was closest to the bathroom, of course. And then we decided we had to go up onto the 15th deck to look at the view from there. We got to the 15th deck and went to the back of the stern of the ship, and there was fantastic pictures that I took of the Sydney Bridge and the Sydney Harbor Opera House. Just spectacular. We had a really wonderful time up there. But then it was time to go back to the room and relax for a while before dinner. It was only after 4 o'clock, and I looked out and I saw we were moving already. We were supposed to leave till 6. Why are we moving so early? So I hung out the window and took pictures of the skyline as we slowly sailed outside of the city and into the Coral Sea to go up north. We sailed for several days, I think maybe 3 or 4 days, because there'd been a huge cyclone in the north. And they kind of rerouted our trip. In the meantime, we would go to dinner at, well, actually, we went to the theater at 7:30 till 8:15, and then 15 minutes we'd go to our favorite uh, restaurant, the Cosmopolitan, and have dinner there. It worked out really great. But the second day, the captain had an event party, and he came out and talked about the trip, and then he celebrated a couple's like their 25th or so voyage in the last 15 years or something unbelievable. And after that, we sailed on, and I have quite a bit of the different types of entertainment that we saw. We had magicians, we had comedians, we had lots of dancing and singing, and really spectacular. And I have some of those videos, just short videos of this throughout the trip on this webpage. So we continued sailing on, and we were going north, and we went past an island that was inhabited by 4 people. It was a weather station, and it had a lot of birds around. So we rushed out to take pictures of the birds flying around the island and the ship. But my camera was $500, and another guy was $5,000, and we couldn't get any pictures because they were all blurred. Well, we went back inside and we went back outside. Well, it was 100 degrees outside and it was like 70 degrees inside. So, of course, the lenses steamed over, not just on the outside, but on the inside. So he said, it'll take us at least half an hour to an hour for the cameras to actually get acclimated to the actual temperature of 100 degrees. So I went back inside, I got my iPad, and guess what? I used it the rest of the time and I had no problem with having steam or anything else. As a matter of fact, Virginia and I were irritated about the balcony we had because it has a huge window that you press the button and it goes down so that you can actually see outside and get the fresh air and stuff. And we were complaining, and some people came along and they said, "Oh, you're lucky you got that cabin with the way it's situated with that window on your balcony." And we said, "Well, why would you say that?" And they said, "Well, anybody with a balcony that was open, they opened the door up, and they said the steam came in. It was so hot, everything was steamed over, the mirrors and everything else, and then it was 100 degrees, and then you had to shut the door, or else you'd lose all the coolness." So then they said it was absolutely horrible. So on the whole trip, almost, they hardly ever opened their sliding glass doors on their balconies. So I guess we lucked out. So off we went sailing up to the north, where we were going to Cannes. And it's interesting, that town and the area around it, it has an R in it, but you don't pronounce the R in Australia. So Australia. So they said say Cannes, and where's the R? I don't know. Anyway, off we went for the next day for a tour. We landed at Cannes, and then we were going to go on a tour. Now, the ship is so huge, it can't get into the ports in many places, so we'd be a mile or two out into the Coral Sea. But actually, it was more fun because we got to get on the tenders and sail for half an hour or so to get to the dock. And then we got on a bus to go up to the Aboriginal village, so-called village of Aborigines. We're on the bus, and we chewed up this mountain, and we're told it's a 150 million year old rainforest, the oldest in the world. So we wanted to take pictures. Too bad, so sad. You can't take any pictures unless it's out of the windows as we careened up the side of the mountain. So I did get some pictures. And there's some fields of sugar cane and a few other things. But sugar cane, they said, is a really terrible crop. In 5 years, it completely drains the ground of any nutrients or anything, so they have to plant other things for several years to even get the soil back to where it was. And it takes 7 tons of sugar cane to make 1 ton of sugar. So it doesn't sound like a great crop to grow. We got to the village, and there was a name there that said Karumba, and we were told it meant the meeting place for the Aborigines. Well, there were no Aborigines there. There were 3. 2 were maintenance people at the bathroom, and 1 was a 90-year-old on a bench ready to keel over and die. The first place was $21 to see a parrot. The next, $21 to see a butterfly. And the third one was $21 to see a koala bear, I guess, or something. So anyway, then we went around and there's things to buy. A kangaroo leather tie, just what you wanted to wear. A coin purse that was about this big around, and you squeezed it and it opened up because it was all fur on the top. And you could put coins in it. Anyway, I don't think anybody bought anything. And everybody who ran all these businesses were white Australians. What did this have to do with Aborigines? I have no idea. And then we decided to go to the coffee shop and sit out there on a veranda with a roof over it and relax, because the bus, which was air conditioned, dumped us there and left for 2 hours and didn't come back, so we couldn't go anyplace in air conditioning. So as we were sitting there chatting with each other, the flies came along and were over everything, including your arms, and biting and everything. So the bus finally came back and we got on the bus, went down, got on the ship and said, so much for $170 for a 5-hour tour. I mean, this was silly. And we heard from a lot of other people that were on tours, and also the ones that had gone to New Zealand, said that they were not very happy with the tours either. So back we went to the ship, and that was the best part, being on the tender and getting onto our ship again. So we went off sailing again, and we went to Port Douglas, and that was a small, interesting town. And I think it was only $80 or something for a 3-hour tour, but it was just the wildlife habitat. And that was actually quite nice, but it was a self tour. And you went all around. It was this huge net covering acres. And the birds were all free to fly around and stuff. And then there was a big area of kangaroos that were spoiled rotten. You put $1 in a machine and you got a handful of food out. And then, of course, all the kangaroos were hanging around you all the time because they just wanted to be fed. So I got to see a koala bear, I got to see a bunch of birds, and I got to see, what else did I get to see? You can see it was so memorable, and the kangaroos. So that was the end of that trip, and we went back and had to get on the tender again at that town and go off to the ship. We continued sailing on, and we ended up at Arley Beach, or Airlie Beach. Now, we docked about a mile or so away, and everybody had to get on a tender again to go to the beach. Now, there was nothing there but this small town, and I don't know what it cost to go, but they said that once you got there, you went around and there was lots of shops to buy all kinds of things, and not much else to do unless you wanted to have a little snack or something. And I don't know, it just didn't sound like it was something that I really needed to do, to spend money on things that I don't need, since I've stopped buying all those little trinkets that one used to buy when one was younger. So I decided it was easier just to stay on the ship and relax and not do anything. We went to quite a few more theatrical musical venues, and then we went to a gallery tour, and that was quite interesting too. We got to go through to see how they made the desserts and all that sort of things. I then also wanted to go to the art auction because you got free champagne. So I instantly rushed over in the afternoon to go to that art auction also. That was just great.
I came here for love. I want you to reach out. This is what we came here for. We came here for love. I won't give it up. This is what we came here for. We came here for love.
Time went by, and I went to the Cosmopolitan to have dinner after we had gone to the Airlie Beach, and the people there were all excited because they heard it was my birthday. So the wine steward and the waiter and the woman who seated us at the front desk all got together. They got me a cake, and they all sang happy birthday to me. Just wonderful. Had a wonderful, wonderful dinner and a wonderful time. Then the next day we sailed off to Brisbane. Now, there wasn't any tours there, but they did have a bus for $15 round trip, and they would take you downtown. And then you could walk around and take photos or go shopping. So I decided, why not do that? So I got on the bus with about 50 or 60 people, and it took half an hour to get downtown, but it was almost all industrial and manufacturing. And then we got downtown, and it was all high rises and a nice little center of downtown that we got out. But the main reason to go was a huge shopping mall next to where we parked the bus. Well, like I guess 30 or 40 couples, the wives were all excited because they wanted to go shopping at the mall. And there were like 5 of us, I think 3 women and 2 men. And the last thing we needed to do was go shopping. So we walked all around. I took some photos, and we got back on the bus about 20 minutes later and back to the ship. So actually, it was just fine. We saw enough of the city, and it's just weird. The river that goes through there, they said the houses are 5 to 10 million or $15 million. They didn't look like they were worth anywhere near that kind of money. It's just strange, but I guess it's like San Francisco, 10 million, 15 million, 20 million. The average house is what, $900,000, $900,000 for the average house. So then it was time to go to the specialty restaurant. That's the only one we went to, and the entire time we were on the tour. It was about $200 for the 2 of us, and I had a $50, I think, gift from the ship from the last time we sailed. So I put that onto the $200. So it ended up being about 150, and plus we had to buy or pay for cocktails. But we had a really wonderful meal, and as you can see by the food that we had, it was extremely funny because the hors d'oeuvre was about the size of a 50-cent piece and about half an inch high. The fork was much larger than that, as you can see by the picture. The meat dish was really, really spectacular, just tender as could be. And of course, we got the cake, which was a large cake, and had a chocolate writing on it of my birthday and all that sort of stuff. And the crew came over and they all sang happy birthday to me and stuff. A lot of people in the restaurant sang happy birthday also. So we had a really nice time, nice dinner, and that was the end of that. So we'll see where my next birthday dinner is going to be. The last day we decided that we were going to have breakfast in our room. Well, everything is costing more and more on the ships now. It's $100 a day for a drink package, $50 for internet, and now it used to be free, but now it's $9.50 to get room service. The continental breakfast is free, so we did get that. And they had supplied our refrigerator with a bottle of champagne, so we had a champagne lunch, or breakfast, I should say, with a little orange juice in it. And then we got back to to Sydney and off to the airport. And this time, the flight was only 13 hours, and we landed in LA. Unfortunately, we got to LAX, and guess what? We encountered a hurricane in northern Australia. So we get to LA, and guess what? There's this huge storm all over California. We got there at 7 in the morning, and at noon they said the flight was canceled. At 3, the flight was canceled. At 5 in the afternoon, we got on the plane and sat there on the end of the runway with the wind whipping around in the rain, and they said it wasn't going to happen back to the airport. And then at 10 o'clock, they said we might not get on the plane, and there would be nothing out of there till Tuesday. This is Sunday after evening. And I was mad. I said, we've been kicked off. This is the 4th flight. You're not going to put us on this flight. I said, my friend has got bandages and things, and they're in her bag, which is floating somewhere in outer space. We have no idea. You're not going to put us on this plane after we've been here since 7 in the morning, and it's 10 at night. So we were really irritated, but they did get us on the plane, and off we flew to San Francisco, and we got there. And by the time we got there, I told Virginia, look, I'm just going to get a cab and just go home. And that way Naomi can pick you up, and she could just take you home, and she doesn't have to try to take me downtown and then go back over to your place. So I got a cab, and when I got home, it was 1 a.m. in the morning. So that was like 40 hours it took to get back. I'd had it, but it was another memorable trip and another memorable birthday, my 84th birthday. What a deal. And on that note, we'll see what happens next.